Hey guys, Fred Wellman right here in the hot seat with FP Wellman on the MeidasTouch Network. Usually I start with the video, but I kind of want to tee this one up. We're doing an interesting one this week. We're going to talk to Angus King, who's running for governor of Maine. And the leading Republican candidate, well, he's something. I'm going to show you a video right now. Stat's going to pull me out. Let's watch the leading Republican candidate that is running for governor of Maine.
A Maine representative, a Democrat, Decca Delac, today went out and said that her goal is to protect our country, Somalia. She comes from Somalia. She's a Muslim from Somalia who enjoys all the rights of the United States, and frankly, I think, as a legislator in Maine, should be protecting our country, the United States of America. So let me give a little history lesson. That's Ronald Reagan behind me there, and that's Nancy Reagan. I worked with both of them, and she's pushing flags at the grave sites of young Americans who died in World War II. And why is she doing that? Because America is a place where you exercise freedoms, just like those that Decca Delac has exercised in her free speech, and we honor that. But I'm going to tell you something else. The United States lost 18 young men in the Battle of Mogadishu. We had 73 young people wounded. The United States is all over the world protecting freedom. And Miss Delac, with all due respect, you are an American, and if you are an American, your country is the United States of America. We are working right now to make America great again, and your country, in case you forget again, is not Somalia. Your country is the United States of America.
Okay, so where do you start with that one? First of all, that is Bobby Charles. This is actually a couple of years ago. The Republican leader in the Maine's governor, as I mentioned. Those are comments about State Representative Decca Delac, and she is a native of Somalia, but she's a naturalized citizen. Those comments simply were racist, xenophobic, and frankly un-American. He called her a Somalia first candidate, questioned her loyalty, and then had the absolute audacity, as me, a veteran, and to bring up the Battle of Mogadishu. Do you know why we were in Mogadishu? We were in Mogadishu to protect Somalis, to make Somalis safer. And while we did battle Somali militia that day, my friends, and I do have friends that fought there because I was stationed at Fort Campbell when that battle went down, and my good friends were in Task Force 60. I actually had lunch with Mike Durant when he returned from captivity one day, when he was at Arby's, minding his own damn business. Poor Mike had to listen to me for 5 minutes. That idea that someone running for office now could use those things against a fellow American citizen. She is not a foreigner. She is an American, and she was elected by the people of Maine to represent Mainers. So to reduce religion to the birthplace and everything else is just so damn divisive. But that's who he is. He has doubled down since. Let me show you this. Yeah, he posted this on his look. He's running for office, and he posted this clearly cartoonish, racist stuff about someone running for office. Look, there's just no place for that in politics. But the good news through all this is there really is a good people running for governor against him. And we're going to talk to one of them. You know the name probably. Angus King III has built his career, though, bringing people together. And no matter where they come from or what they look like, he's ready to tackle those challenges that Maine faces. And now he's stepping up to take on the challenge of running for governor. I talk about all the time how it is an act of bravery to run for office, and it certainly is one. So I am Fred Wellman, as I mentioned. I'm the host of On Democracy right here on the MeidasTouch Network. But this is In the Hot Seat with Angus King III. Sir,
Thanks, Fred.
Angus, I am not supposed to say sir. Angus, welcome to the show. It's great to meet you. It's great to hang out there. I really appreciate you. I think we probably should address the elephant in the room, obviously, is you are famous because you turned cow poop into energy. I'm kidding. Yeah, you come from a great family line of Mainers, but that's not why you run for office. You've had a history of energy innovation. You've worked on affordable housing in Maine. You've protected natural resources in Maine, but this is different. You've decided to run for governor. You've been spending decades working these, fighting problems in Maine. Why'd you decide to step up and run for governor now?
Yeah, let me tell you, people in Maine are just struggling too much. And life is just too damn hard up here. It's hard if you're a working family trying to pay for your groceries. It's hard if you're a young family trying to afford a house. It's hard if you're a senior and you're watching hospitals close or nursing homes close. It's hard if you're a small business person, because we actually make it pretty darn hard to run a business here in Maine, to hire people, to grow your companies. And as you pointed out, I've spent my whole life trying to solve problems, trying to build things that help people, whether it's affordable housing or renewable energy, or starting companies here or creating jobs here. I have spent my whole life doing that kind of work, and now feels like the exact right moment. Sometimes people do ask me, what is it about this moment that makes you want to run? And my answer is, what isn't it about this moment? I
Yeah.
mean, if you were ever going to step up, this is exactly the right time, I think.
I get it, and I've been looking at your campaign materials. We were getting ready for the show. You've talked about lowering those costs for working families, for people who are in, the uniqueness of Maine, hauling traps, welding steel, juggling multiple jobs. The gig economy we're dealing with. I mean, what do you plan to do to kind of make life more affordable without sacrificing, services or opportunities and all the other things they accuse us of doing when we talk about these issues?
Yeah, right. No, and I think the other thing you have to be really focused on is making sure you're not sacrificing the quality of life here in Maine. It
There you
is a
go.
wonderful place to live because of the natural heritage we have, because of the people we have here, and people live here because of that quality of life. So if you don't protect that out of the gate, you're lost. But costs are too high. And I would start with housing, right? Housing is supposed to be 30% of your income. For a lot of people, it's 40, 50+% of their income. They just cannot get by. They cannot realize the dream of home ownership. It's affecting people's ability to move because of a job. It's affecting companies' abilities to grow because they can't find people to come here
Right.
and afford a home when they take the job. And that's jobs at all levels of the economic ladder. So we've got to do a better job of building housing. We really have made it quite hard here, and we've fallen way, way behind. We're 80,000 units shy in Maine. And so by focusing, and that's in a state of 1.4 million people, it is not a lot of people. And
Right.
so doing that work and focusing both at the state level and at the town level, working with people across the spectrum, whether it's developers and lenders, town planners, all of those people really need to have a lot of help, a lot of support, and a lot of encouragement in order for us to build more housing here in Maine. I think that's the single best thing we can do to help people get their cost of living into a reasonable range.
It's a shocking number that big when you talk about, like I said, that's not a huge population of people, but that growing gap is national. But it's funny, people don't realize in a smaller population state, it's much more noticeable, right? It's much more impactful when they can't find homes in places like yours, isn't it?
Absolutely. And companies are now resorting to building their own homes for employees,
Wow.
because that's the only way that they can get an employee to move there. And when the company has to take on that role, you know that the market and the state ecosystem has fallen way, way behind. Those companies are in business to build ships, to build labs, to build other things. They are not in the business of building housing. Um, and the good news is there are a lot of really smart, hardworking people trying to solve this problem. And what we need to do, I think, is find ways to unleash those people to help them accomplish that goal. And I think there's really a lot of things that are within our reach, as long as we help get those people help along the way.
I love it. And on that note, we talk about rising energy crisis. Prices. I live in Missouri, right? And the Missouri State, the Ameren's electric company here, they just raised our rates 12%, just out of nowhere, And so you've been a leader in your career in renewable energy. The joke I made, for those who don't know, you'd have to look up Angus's background, but he literally did lead an innovator project in Clinton, Maine, where they did use cow manure to heat thousands of homes, which is why I tease him about it. But how do you see clean energy fitting into the economic future of Maine? I mean, that's kind of a key plank for you, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you, you're lucky in Missouri that it was only 12.
Wow.
Maine had one of
Yeah.
the highest increases, north of 20%, depending on how you count, last year. And that's on top of health insurance costs going up by 20%. I mean, the costs here are really getting intolerable. Look, renewable energy has been a big part of my career and has to be a big part of the story, but affordability has to be a cornerstone of that. We are at a place where we're very lucky, where renewable energy is now the cheapest and fastest to deploy energy we've got out there, despite what's happening in Washington and the president's
Yeah.
attempts to hurt that business in a pretty meaningful way. There are still lots and lots of things that we can do, even in the face of that, of those headwinds, to really make a difference, not only in terms of energy, but also renewable energy and helping the climate as well. I think the good news is a lot of governors are going to be working together. I think it's important to elect a Democrat in Maine. I've got a dog in that hunt. But it's important to elect Democrats all over the country, because they're going to be the tip of the spear in terms of how we really push a lot of this climate agenda forward. The
And
last thing I'll say, though, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
I just
I
the,
didn't
the
mean to
last
interrupt.
thing is we've got to figure out ways to help people do this sort of thing faster and in a more streamlined way, right? We are regulating ourselves, and it's not because we have particularly high standards. The standards should always be high. There's no question on permitting standards should be high. The challenge is we have all of these processes, all of which started with a good intention, but we've now got sort of death by 1,000 good intentions, and it makes it very hard, very expensive. I saw the other day that Australia is putting rooftop solar on for about a quarter of the cost that we're doing it here in the US, because they've just gotten the process down. They can get permits in a day to put it on your roof. And we should be able to do more of that. It adds $1.50 just in process, and we've got to figure out a way. Again, the technology is cheap, the know-how we've got, and we've just now got to deploy those people really more effectively.
Yeah, it sounds like good intentions you mentioned, but government it's not wrong to admit that government can't get in the way, even the best of intentions, can't they?
No, that's right. That's right. And look, people, the system is not serving people in a lot of contexts, and people are upset about that, and they feel that, right? They know that we're not always as efficient as we could be. We're not always as responsive as we could be. Sometimes we do make it harder to do the things that government actually wants us to do. If we want more renewable energy, if we want more affordable housing, we've got to figure out a way to make it easier for the people doing those things to get it in the ground and to get it operational. I think it's possible. I know my history in business is you can always find a way. I'm very optimistic about it. And I think the challenge, though, is there are a lot of people who are really cynical about it, and they really just don't believe anything positive can be done. But I know we can do it if we do it in a different way. That's what my experience has taught me, and that's what I'm ready to do as governor.
And that kind of goes to something else I've seen you talk about a lot as we were getting ready. Is you talk a lot about bringing people together and focusing on common ground for everybody, and it's a very hard time for that, right? I mean, obviously, it is a very divisive time right now. You did mention the challenges in Washington. Our political climate's hard. How do you think you can make that work in practice in Maine, where you got people like your opponent? I mean, how do we find common ground to bring, especially such a small population that needs to come together?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, division and conflict and judgment come through our phones every single day, 24 hours a day. And so it is really difficult. The good news is in Maine, I think we've actually got a much better shot. People in Maine are in fact focused on community. People in Maine are in fact caring about their neighbors and their neighbors' kids. If your dog gets loose, or if your car breaks down, or if your kid needs to come home sick, there's someone there who helps pull your car out of the ditch, or track down your dog, or be home that, a neighbor comes by for your kid when your family needs the help. That's what Maine is. And I think so there is real opportunity. The other way to do it, though, is let's start focusing on the things that we have in common. Let's start focusing on, there's a lot of agreement. We need more housing. We need better healthcare access. We have a lot of challenges in our healthcare system, in a system that fundamentally is broken in many, many ways. Yeah. We have an educational system that I think has a lot of opportunity to get better for people, so that they feel like their kids are ready for the jobs of both today and tomorrow. I think if we focus on those kinds of things, on housing, education, economic development, healthcare, I think we're going to find that we have a ton in common. And if we focus with some common sense on those pieces, both the challenges that we've got in common, but also the hopes and aspirations that we share, I think we can do really well. I'm very, very optimistic about when you sit down with people and say, let's just solve these problems together. You can get a long way. That's the experience I've had. I've never once sat in a business meeting and said, okay, everyone who's a Republican, sit on that side of the room. Everyone who's a Democrat, sit on that side. And I'm not going to listen to the people on that side of the room. It's just not the way you go through 90% of your life. No. And I think people feel that when they look at the division that a lot of politics creates today. And I think we can work through that.
You just described public service, which runs in your family, I believe. Having said all that, the most important part of our conversation is where can the Meidas Mighty find you? Where can they find out more information about your campaign? Maybe chuck a few bucks your way so you can get ahead of these guys and truly make a difference in the next election.
Yeah, I appreciate that. AngusForGovernor.com is the easiest place to find. There's a campaign video. There's a lot of information about me, but also much more than me about what I'm hoping to accomplish and the people that I'm hoping to bring in and how we do this together. So AngusForGovernor.com is the right spot.
Easy. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Like I said, I've been a fan of both you and your family and the work you do, and we wish you the best of luck, and we'll stay in touch.
Fred, it's a pleasure. Great to see you. Have a great rest of the day.
Join us. You too.
All right.
It's a great conversation. I love this job. If you guys don't get that impression, I love my job. And so that's Angus King III. Obviously, his father is a senator, but he's running on an incredible career all of his own. And so that's why we don't talk about that. I want you to learn more. That's AngusForGovernor.com. Maine needs good leadership, and he's following the footsteps of some good ones. So wish him the very best. As always, this has been In the Hot Seat. You can find these here on the MeidasTouch Network as we finish them. Of course, every Friday night you can find On Democracy with FP Woman right on the MeidasTouch Network at 7 p.m. Eastern every Friday night. We love it. Remember, be sure to follow us. Be sure to subscribe to our Substack, fpwellman.substack.com. We'll be around. Keep up the fight, folks. There's hope out there, and we're going to win this thing. Thanks.